Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel. And if you spent a second here, you will know I am on a mission through this channel to provide you with everything you need to improve your business through sales and marketing. So not only am I here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing, I'm also grilling anyone I can find with experience to get their knowledge on sales and marketing for you also. Now, today's guest has more than 17 years of high-ticket sales experience, consistently surpassing targets. He is described in one of his LinkedIn recommendations as one of the most professional and nicest people I have come across in my life. He is currently commercial awareness and B2B coach in his own business, Vista Real. He describes himself as the best DJ in his own mind, a closet club junkie, and a fanatical dad. Today's guest is Jamie Badar. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, Martin. How are you doing?
I am really well, thank you, man. So thank you so much for agreeing to spend this time with me. We don't know each other. We've been speaking for about 5 minutes, including the 3 minutes that when we weren't recording, when we thought we were recording. So thank you. It was Robbie Batty who recommended that we speak. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. I don't know how you're feeling about it.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I'm intrigued. Very little kind of run up to it. Not really, just flowing with just going with the punches basically, and just see what you're going to throw at me. Because I get the impression you're going to give me a bit of a grilling, but who knows? I'm just.
Yeah. What do I think about that? I think the thing is, quite often sales and marketing people are quite slick. And I think I'm probably guilty of this as well. So I think I'm genuinely interested in what people are saying. So I've always got a question, but I also want to get a little bit beyond what might be the veneer. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it's very easy for us as sales and marketing professionals to offer up a very slick kind of presentation, but behind the presentation is probably where the value is. That's how I feel.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, it's getting rid. I mean, sales. So you got the image of smell. I think this is the old cliche. As long as you look good, smell good. You're pretty much halfway there. Is the typical thing, but it's far from the truth. There's a lot. Colleagues in marketing They always do an amazing job when the lead comes through, and it's a really strong lead. And there's a lot of the lifting work and a lot of the heavy work's been done up to that point. But, it's an MQL, marketing qualified lead, but it still needs, typically in the type of sales that I've done in the majority of my career, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done at that point. That's just really scratching the surface. So you can't just turn up and throw a bit of lingo about. You need to be able to really understand the context and the ecosystem which the customer's working in, which is why my career has been founded on commercial awareness. I think as soon as I got past the whole sales patter and techniques actually, and sales methodologies, which kind of get so far, I think when you start going up to the bigger stuff, then they don't really work as well, which is why I am on a bit of a personal mission to work past the traditional kind of sales trainings, which I have got an issue with. A bit like you, I think you said, you got gripes and you got certain issues with in the industry. I do too, within the sales industry, and how it's traditionally gone about trying to train its salespeople. Because I do think it's doing a bit of a disservice out there, which is where the commercial awareness really comes in. And I think that kind of supersedes a lot of issues with traditional sales. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, excellent. So it sounds like we're in agreement about some of these things. There is an issue. Like I just got issues in my life. I spend too much time thinking about these things, is the truth. But there is an issue of like people not wanting to be in sales, businesses not wanting to invest in sales and marketing. Let's say businesses not wanting to invest in sales and marketing. Salespeople not really knowing what they're doing, sales and marketing people not knowing what they're doing. Like you say, marketing might do a great job in producing the lead, But for some reason, salespeople don't like marketing generated leads. They prefer their own there's all these issues. But we are running ahead of ourselves, I think. So did I tell you about the 4 questions already since we started re-recording?
Yeah, you're going to need to tell me again. Yeah.
Okay, so there's only 5 questions. So the first question is, how are you qualified to talk to us about sales?
All right.
The second question is, who are your customers? What is it that you do for them? How do you add value to their lives? The third question is, what is your recommendation for anyone who wants to get better at sales? The fourth question is, what should people read? And the fifth question is, who can you throw under the bus to have some of these conversations with me? So the first question is, and don't worry, you don't have to remember. I am going to remind you. I've only got 5 things to remember, so we're good.
Thank you. All right. So
question number 1, how are you qualified to talk to us about sales?
Well, so back in 1992, I was about 15, coming on to 16 years old. And I had a friend who was just doing some real, just making money in the evenings, making appointments for double glazing. I mean, it sounds so seedy, and it probably was as I think about it, because we were just holed up literally in this boiler room. I suppose, okay, so precursor to that is I just wanted to make more money. And I think one of the things I've been running away from during kind of like late adolescence into my sort of late 20s was I was trying to do the more noble thing and wanting to do something with principles. So I trained as an engineer. But before that, I was actually probably more honest with myself, and I just wanted to make money. So I was working for this double glazing company called Anglican Windows, I think they were called. And we were just holed up in this horrible little boiler room. And it was back in the day where you could smoke and work in the same environment. And we were just basically working through the phone book, calling up just residential phone numbers, just trying to book appointments for salespeople to attend. And we just got paid per lead. And I can't remember how much it was. It was probably not very much, but I think I was 16 years old and I just wanted to make money. And I don't want to get into too much about that, but I just had this thing that I just wanted to make money. I was intrigued about just wanting just to trade some, just to get some money. I think it's completely normal. I think most people go through that. I think obviously that's why people get jobs, but I heard that sales is a good way to do that. And it's like, right, okay, just get on the phone and just see what this is about. I probably didn't really kind of analyze myself or have too much self-reflection or self-awareness at that age. It's just something I wanted to do. And I just did it because, just for the sake of doing it. I went into engineering. I did engineering university and wasn't really enjoying it, I guess, but it's something I could do. I really enjoyed maths and physics, so I thought engineering was the logical thing to do. I then did a master's in IT for engineering in some vain hope to try and pull myself into kind of a direction that I kind of wanted to go into. And then I did something very IT orientated for the engineering industry. And then I started, it was very, very technical. I then, cut a long story short, I went into training into this particular product. I really enjoyed being in front of people. And I thought, blimey, why don't I just do more people facing, doing more people facing job? And someone just recommended, well, maybe try sales. So I went into trying to sell this product or a smaller version of it. And I really, I kind of took to it. I just really enjoyed getting out there and just learning about what businesses did and getting on the phones. Well, to say I enjoyed it was a bit of a long shot. I didn't get much training at the time. I was just given a laptop, an Excel spreadsheet with a database and a budget for petrol. And I went out and, I got on the phones, tried to make meetings for myself and just tried to do what I thought was the right thing to do. Didn't really have any training really in that job. And that time it was selling a product. It was about 5,000. It was about £5,000 per license kind of product. And for me, that was quite a lot of money at the age of, 24, 25. But then you just grew from there, really. But so that was the beginning. That was about 17, 18 years ago. And it's just grown from there. So it's grown from selling a £5,000 license, and then selling multiple licenses of those. So orders grew up to, 10, 20,000 pounds. I got approached by a company in Australia to do the same thing I was doing in the UK, but over in Australia. They said, look, where do you want to go? I chose the East Coast. I was in Brisbane. I was about, I was 27, 28 years old. And there was a massive boom at the time in the resources industry. And I went from selling products, into the product industry. So I was selling into the aerospace, automotive, and transportation industry, into the resources, so oil and gas, mining. So that, unfortunately, and this goes against my principles, I was very much around the coal industry, but also the precious metals industry, and also just the metals industry as well. So iron and that was a huge eye opener. And then just deals just grew and grew and grew. And then once you get into the resources industry, there's a bit of a side story. I trained as a life coach when I was over there as well, because I did some life coach training when I was in the UK. And that was just fascinating. And part of my the word aptitude comes into it. My success in sales came back when I really got into understanding people and the psychology of how to wean out issues that people have at a personal level, and how that interacted with their business. So there was a lot of the kind of, I did do some sales training at the time, Sandler, for what it was worth, but it was really the people skills that really kind of accelerated my my success, for want of a better word, my ability in sales, really.
Okay.
And then in Australia, I started a small little business doing the life coaching for a little bit. I was coaching business owners, I was coaching franchise owners, I was coaching athletes, and I was really getting understanding of the mindset of these people. And I guess one of the things that I was dealing with before I started my own little business was this discrepancy between me being a little old salesperson. Who am I to go and speak with you, very successful senior leader in this huge organization that's running, multiple millions and, hundreds of millions or whatever, multinationals, or you running a business? I've never done anything like that. To someone who's running a business, coaching people who have done that, but speaking about regular stuff that they're dealing with and grappling with in their life, and then going back into sales and having a totally different stance and position and disposition within myself, and talking at a completely different level, because I had done everything to start a business up, doing the marketing, doing the operations, doing the product development, doing the lead generation all by myself, doing it on a bootstrap, doing it on a sniff of a rag, just doing it from nothing. And I wanted to do it from nothing. And having a mortgage to pay at the same time, and all those kind of stresses, and now relating to business people at a peer level rather than coming from an inferior type of position. And so it was just a different connection, I think. And then I I'd hate this word headhunting, but I was approached by recruitment consultants to much larger positions, and base salaries increased, and the products that I was selling just got, the dollar value was getting bigger and bigger. So I was selling much bigger ticket items, really. I don't know how to really condense that into a smaller thing, but yeah.
That's okay.
I don't know. Does that make sense at all? I don't know.
It does make sense. And it's interesting how there's like a flow through each of these things. So the talk that got posted this week was with Ben Kench. Ben Kench wrote the book Selling for Dummies.
Oh, I've got that down here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So he was here. Now you've got something in common with him, because he also, he was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. So he
Oh,
started
right.
selling Watchtower door to door. He was one of those Jehovah's Witnesses who knocked on people's doors. So he's like, if
Right.
you want to learn how to handle rejection, that's how you do it. But then he went
Right.
into double glazing and timeshare, and he did
Right.
that kind of boiler room, school of hard knocks kind of sales as well. And I also did
Yeah.
a little bit of double glazing when I was at sixth form college. I don't
Right.
remember being very good at it. The question I want to ask you, and this happens a lot, your words, I wanted to do something more noble, so I studied engineering.
Yeah.
Why do we think that? Why? And you're also
Yeah.
saying, I just wanted to earn money, and
Yeah.
I heard that sales was a good way to do that.
Yeah.
So this is a real
Yeah.
issue for me, which is
Yeah.
why, like, none of us go to work for any reason other than to earn money. I mean, you could say that
Yeah.
you have a calling to do something, but the truth
Yeah.
is, I'm sure if you didn't need the money, you'd find something else to do with your time. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so if you want to make money, clearly sales is the best way to do that because there's no cap ever on how much money you can make. But we all
That's right.
have this weird, like, to take your words, you're suggesting that sales is unknowable.
Yeah, yeah. I just wrote something about this actually, where the old phrase "caveat emptor," buyer beware,
Yes.
which comes from. I mean, it's a really old phrase. That's from like the 1602. I think it was first used in the legal industry to protect buyers on salespeople, because literally the buyer only up to really recently, the buyer really only knew about the product until they committed to the transaction. They didn't really know anything. All the power was in the seller's hands because they knew everything about it, knew how it was made, all the experience of their previous customers, and so and et cetera, et cetera. And so the seller really had all the cards in their hands, and then it was up to the honesty and the integrity of that salesperson to portray that whatever they're selling is the truth. And then the customer, and so there's some salespeople are fantastic, but others people, they could take advantage of it for whatever reason. They thought, oh, okay, I'm onto something here. Maybe I can just embellish or just expand on the truth a little bit, I won't mind, or just cover up or make it sound better than it actually is. They won't know. I'm out of here, and I've got the money. I've gone. And so there's a bad reputation, but that reputation, I think, has grown and swollen over the years. And this caveat, and I think there's this the perception, the reputation has really hung over the sales industry for centuries, and I think that's something is just ingrained now in people. But things have changed. Research is just so easy now. People can share their experiences on their app, Trustpilot and TripAdvisor, Amazon. It's all based on social selling. On the experiences of previous customers. So really now it's caveat emptor, seller beware. But the reputation very much is still hung over from yesteryear. But things have changed very, very quickly in the last 10 years or so. So the nobility, I think, factor is a play on that, right? I think
Yes.
that's very much in the background, of this disdain or this reputation that salespeople have. But no, I'm definitely on a mission to try and change that. I think it's very much needed to change the reputation, and that's part of my business. I think that goes hand in hand with the commercial awareness, because there's a lot of hard graft that goes into understanding a client's context in which they work in. That's no easy task, especially if you want to sell into a complex ecosystem.
Yes.
And
Okay, good.
to be respected.
Yes. Okay, so I think it's deeper than what you're saying. I don't think you knew this when you were 16 or 17, but
Oh,
you
definitely.
knew that sales was unknowable. And you see, I think I had a sales career. I was working in sales for 10 years, and
Yeah.
I only decided to position myself as marketing because I'd seen the marketing people lord it up with all of the budget and none of the target for like those 10 years, So that was my reasoning, was I'll go into marketing because they get the money. Of course, when you do marketing, you realize it's not quite like that either. But I think that sales, people should learn. Like, I was a Larry kid at school, and nobody ever took me aside and said, Martin, all of what you're doing, jumping up and down, making friends with everyone, getting their attention, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be a salesperson when you grow up. You're probably going to be a good salesperson, because those are the skills that you need to do that job. No one ever said that to me. Do you know what I mean? And nobody, and we were never taught about like how to have a conversation with people, just like very basic stuff. Like, we're taught so much at school, but those of us that are that Larry kid that were obviously always going to hopefully end up in sales, we never got that direction because what percentage of the population actually end up selling? It must be huge, because the point of sales is that if nobody's bringing the money in, you don't have a business. Right. It's probably the most noble of all of the causes going on in a business, because nobody gets paid, nobody eats unless the salespeople bring in the money. So that's what I think. I don't.
I totally agree with you. It's the lifeblood of any business. It's the lifeblood of any household. It's the lifeblood of any society.
Yes.
Right.
And this is what, certainly in the kind of economies that we live in now, it has to happen. And where I got to with Ben was like Ben Kent was saying that basically you want to be the sort of salesperson that is the mate of the customer. I'm getting some echo back here on me. I think it might be okay.
I missed that. That wants to be the type of.
So what you really want to be as a salesperson is the specialist in a subject who sells that stuff to his mates. Like, so for example, if I buy photography gear, I want the salesperson in the photography shop to be my specialist mate who makes sure I get the best deals on the photography gear. Do you know what I mean? That's what you should kind of want to be. So the sales that you're talking about, which absolutely 100% still goes on all day, every day, isn't good business by any stretch of the imagination. It isn't sustainable business. So we hope that those people will go out of business and not be rewarded. The kind of sales that I think we're interested in is the kind of sales that's good for business. I mean, I don't know. But it is.
Yeah, so what does that mean? I mean, your mate wants to look out for you. Your mate hopefully has got your best interest. Yeah.
Yes.
At the front of their mind. They want to do right by you.
Yes.
So they're thinking about you, hopefully as much or hopefully as more than they're thinking about themselves. I mean, you do come across people like that who they come across something good and they just want to share it with somebody. It's like, I've just seen this great movie, or I've just read this great book. I've just been to this great restaurant. I've got to tell you about it. I've just got to. I feel compelled to.
So it's like what you really want is to be that person in your customers' minds, where if they're at a barbecue or a dinner party and someone says, "Oh, sales training," they're like, "Jamie, you have to talk to Jamie. Don't do anything until you talk to Jamie." Do you know what I mean? So you really want to be in a position where your customers don't shut up about you, the salesperson, because you have done such a brilliant service for them, and all of their mates now. You want to build that kind of legend. And I think those kinds of salespeople do really well. The other kind of salespeople have to skip from shitty sales job to shitty sales job, because those are the only roles that will sustain them, even for a short term. Nothing will sustain them long term.
Yeah. Well, this is another part of kind of my training, my program, my method, whatever. It's about understanding your intrinsic interest in whatever you're doing. And so if someone is feeling like they have fallen into sales and it's not really where they want to be, but somehow they're in here now, they've been doing it for 5 years, they've got no transferable skills. It's like, I feel stuck, which is a lot of salespeople, because how many people actually consciously choose to be in sales? I think it's quite a small number. I'd assert it's quite a small number anyway. You've got to make best out of this situation. And so, you do get the journey salesperson where it's like, I don't really fit here. I don't really get on. I'm kind of not really I'm scraping by. Shiny object syndrome, because let's face it, a lot of salespeople are a bit like that. They're like, oh, this is the next best thing. I'm going to go and do that now. When they don't really give themselves enough time in whatever they're selling to really give it a really good shot, really become an expert in whatever there's so many different facets they could become an expert in whatever they're selling. You know, they don't have to be a product expert. They could be. They could devote their time to becoming a great at understanding everything and become almost as good as the demo guy or the technical person in the company. They could. It's just a matter of time. Or they could become really niche expert in a particular business problem that their product can help them with. Do it. Whatever you want to get fascinated in, and sell yourself into that. And I think that's the key thing. Sell yourself into it. Become a great person at it. Become a great person at understanding cameras if that's your thing, you know, and sell as many freaking cameras as you want to.
Yes.
By being a great person at talking about lenses or whatever type of, you know, thing in the camera industry you like.
Yeah, so that's interesting to me. So you are working, so we're coming towards now who are your customers, what do you do for them? Maybe a little bit early, but that's okay. So you're working with salespeople who don't want to be salespeople.
No, it's not. They don't want to be salespeople. They're struggling somehow because you know it's the Pareto principle. 20% they're the guys, or you know, roughly give or take, they're the guys who don't need any help, and they're the so-called eagles. They go out there, they know how to make rain and yada yada. Well, not everyone's like that, and also a company can't survive on just those 20%. They need to work with the middle 60%. So there's the bottom 20% who probably shouldn't be in that role. But you get the middle 60% who they're the journey people, or they could be the people who don't quite connect with their customers, but they just do enough. Maybe they rely on amazing leads, and they're kind of a bit of an order taker. Yeah, you know, the lead just falls in their lap, and they just do enough, but they can't quite retire their quota within the 6 to 9 months and really start churning out some awesome commission rates. You know, when the accelerator, they never really achieved the accelerator, or they never really get on the awards podium or anything like that, you know.
Right.
So it's like, I like to work with those guys because it's very expensive it's very expensive for a business to replace those people. I mean, the onboarding process is a huge amount. Higher agency fees are huge. The cost to a business when that person is unproductive is huge, because all those leads coming through, who can handle those leads? These guys, they're not ready yet. It can take, depending on the complexity of the solution they sell, it can take a long time. And then if they don't work out, well, they've just got to start the cycle of replacing them all over again. So it's really, really expensive to replace, to handle, to manage that 60%. And also in these days, managers are so spread thin that they can't coach them or manage them effectively. They just don't have enough time. And these salespeople who are in this middle 60% band, they need more attention. So I work with those people and I try to turn them around. And I think I've got good experience with performance coaching and mindset coaching. I don't really like that term, but you know, it's getting their voice. I like to help them feel fulfilled in whatever thing they want to go for, and let's try and make some money out of that in the product and the industry that they're selling into.
Okay, cool. Right, so that's really interesting. Because if I look back at my sales career, I mean, I've done some other things. Like I worked in kitchens for a bit, you know, while I was at college. That's a horrible, hard job, like properly hard. I dug the roads for a bit between like sixth form and university, which involved getting into drains and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So So if
was that sales? Was that sales?
That's not sales. No. This was before sales. So the thing is, if I compare that to like the work I did when I was in sales, you know, they gave me a nice car, they gave me a nice laptop, they gave me a phone, you know, and basically I was sent out in the world to make friends with people, you know. So I think selling is a great job. I think it's a really, really great job. But when it goes wrong, it's almost like the worst job. You know, it's like the worst situation, because I don't know, if you're an accountant, you can go back and you say, well, at least I did the sums. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you're a salesperson, it's not working. What do you?
Right.
It doesn't matter what you did. You didn't do the thing you needed to do, which was bring in the sales, I
Right.
suppose. So I think sales is either the best job in the world or the worst job in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So what? So why was it the worst job? Because you just didn't get the money in, or was it because you felt lousy?
Um, because I think what goes on is if you're not, well, I think because of that. The thing is, I
Mm.
think salespeople, it's all about. You're happy with your stage lighting now?
Yeah.
I think in sales, it's all so emotional because it's all about you as a person, I think, much more than
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
other job. So, not like the accountant. The accountant comes, does
That's right.
the sums are done, that's
Yeah.
finished. Like someone who sits
Yep.
on in the production line, they produce the thing, that's done. If you're
Yep.
not doing it in a sales role, you're not doing the
Yeah.
very important thing, which is bringing in the money. And it's never
Yeah.
anybody else's fault. We can talk about what goes wrong, but it's never anybody else's fault apart from your fault. You can't do what is. I mean, you say
Yeah.
somewhere on your materials that sales is a really hard job, and I don't believe it is. I believe it's a really good job, and I believe it's a really easy job if certain things are in place. I mean, I'm getting carried away. We can talk about what things that go wrong. But what I'm just
Mm.
saying at the moment is it's either the best job in the world, you're flying, you're a hero, or
Yeah.
you're dog shit. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not doing what it is that and you feel that personally because it is about you personally, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a few things in what you just said. I think people who stay in sales, once people find out that, oh, I really like sales, they're a people person, you know,
Yes.
and I think that there needs to be a balance struck between I want to connect with this person or the people who I'm working with in the client organization, and understanding how I can really add value to them as a business as well, which kind of puts the relationship at a backward step. Fair enough, we do need to build relationships, but I do think that people, buyers, let's get more specific, really only care about how's this going to help me. And I think salespeople, when they feel deflated or they feel like they've done a bad job, is they kind of put the relationship maybe before how they can help how their client or prospect can benefit from the relationship.
Okay.
Does that?
So I kind
Yeah.
of think that what do I kind of think? Like if I look back at my sales career, so I was selling for about 10 years and I started off selling advertising and like after I graduated when I was in proper jobs, I was selling advertising and then I sold um, exhibitions for a period of time and then I moved into events and then into IT, like big scale IT. So that was kind of my trajectory. I think where it goes wrong is if there is no marketing has happened. And I'm not talking
Right.
about just the generation of leads. I'm talking about identifying the market and
Right.
developing the solution for that market. So I've been in situations, I've always done my own lead gen. The companies I work for never did marketing. So I was like one of those hunter gatherer types. But occasionally I was in situations where the product that I was trying to sell didn't have a market, you know?
Mm.
And what do you
Mm.
do? What do you do then so that's not even about saying I got a lead and the lead was shitty. It's like literally
Yeah.
saying, you guys, you're selling the wrong thing. And I think that
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
a
I know.
lot, by the way.
I think that's true sales, to be honest with you. I mean, I think marketing. I think marketing qualified leads is a godsend for salespeople. I think it's fantastic, but I don't think. And I know there's two schools of thought here. Yeah, fair enough. You should just work the leads, or actually, salespeople should go and generate and do it themselves. And I've done both. And I think it's really good for a salesperson to be able to shake the tree and to be able to agitate someone to take a good hard look at how they're currently doing things, with a view to saying, yeah, well, actually, things could be done better here because I'm too comfortable here, or I haven't looked at any. I just I don't want to look at this bad thing that's happening in my business at the moment because I'm focusing on here, but actually, I liken it to people who are walking with a pebble in their shoe. They get used to walking. You can get used to walking with a pebble in your shoe, but actually, if I focus on a pebble in your shoe, it's actually really uncomfortable. And a salesperson go, no, you've got a pebble in your shoe. Let's get the pebble out. Now you can walk. You can actually start running now. You can actually move in your direction a lot more quickly. And that's what I think a good salesperson can do. They can get them focusing on something that they're actually choosing, or for whatever reason, not looking at in their business or their life or whatever. We can make things better. I think that's a skill of a salesperson. I think if they don't have that experience of confronting a market without agitating it, I don't think that's. I don't know. I prefer. I think telephone and going directly to a market. I think every salesperson needs to have experienced that. Right?
Yeah, and
but going back to your point about not having the right product, that's really difficult. Then you need to go. You found a problem. You then need to go and create a solution for it. And that's creating a business, then, right? Unless you just move on.
Well, so I think it's even different. Well, I think, you see, this is where I'm interested to know why you talk about mindset. And I don't think I'd use the word mindset necessarily. But it feels to me like all of these things in sales and marketing are just slightly out of sync with what's required. That's kind of my mission, is to try and get people just to skew things a little bit and look at it slightly differently. And then I think they'll be happier and more motivated to go and do it. So, for example, I've presented on sales. I've got this presentation called "I'm in the Mood for Selling." And the idea is at the end of this, everyone's up dancing to the Nolan Sisters. It only happened once. But in that, I define what a salesperson is. And for me, sales is making friends with people, motivating them to do something ever so slightly different. So they're probably going to buy something like this. I want to motivate them to buy my thing from me. And then the third thing is making the most of leads. So where you say you had to go and generate your own leads, and you've had leads generated for you, and so you've done both. I think salespeople should do both all the time. Like making the most of leads is having the conversation at the end saying, who else do I need to be speaking to in your organization, in your friend group, in your whatever, so that the marketing do their bit to get you into one place and you do your bit to get you into maybe 3 or 4 more places. And that's where that's where the exponential, that's where the ball rolls. And then you're just flying all day, every day. Yeah. It goes on too often in businesses where sorry, I'm speaking a lot, but I really want to say this. For me, it should be a virtuous cycle. Marketing, identify a market. That's a group of people with a problem that they're prepared to resolve by spending money. That's the market. Then marketing, come up with a solution to that problem by listening to the market. And then more steps happen. The product gets developed. Salespeople get to go and sit face to face or have actual conversations with individuals in that market. And then they should feed back into the marketing department. So what happens is your understanding of the market grows. The product that you're developing gets tighter and tighter and tighter and more efficient and more like what people want to buy. And it goes on and on and on and on. And it's a virtuous cycle. That doesn't happen. And it hasn't happened in any sales and marketing team I've been developed or I've been involved with. What happens is some smart-ass business owner says, I've got a solution to this problem that I've generated in my mind. I don't know if it actually exists in the world. Now I'm going to make the solution that I think fixes the problem in my imagination. And now you guys have to go out and sell that to people. And if you can't sell that to people, it's because you're shit. Okay, I've said enough.
No, I agree with you. There's not enough. There's not enough of that feedback loop is broken from sales into marketing. I think salespeople possibly don't see it as their responsibility. I think it should happen. I think I have seen in cases, and it's under extreme pressure where companies have had to pivot because the market's changed or because it happened during the global financial crisis. It's like, shit, everything's changed. We need to come up with something radically different here. Let's go and speak to our customers. Whoa, what a good idea that is.
Yep.
And find out what else we could provide them. And, so we had a summit, we got big customers in, and it created something new. It's like, oh, Jesus, that's rocket science, right? Not, why don't we do this on a more iterative kind of scale rather than a great big bang kind of scale?
Yeah.
And we might have a more generative, evolving business where we can be much closer to our client base and have, oh, lo and behold, awesome clients who love us. And we have a business which is agile and innovative and expansive and progressive. And it might take more legwork on our side, but that's our responsibility, and that's how we can actually make some money here.
Yes. And the adjustment really isn't so huge, is it? Like you're saying, bombshell.
No, it's a mindset thing. It's like, no, I'm going to take care of my market better, in a different way.
And where you want to get to is the situation where if your clients are having issues, they phone you and say, I've got a problem. I don't know if you could help us with this. That is perfect. Yeah. It's not my experience of the way the world works. And I'm just thinking maybe you were much luckier than me and you found yourselves in sales roles where that was happening. Because where that's not happening, it's really difficult, man.
Yeah, one company that I work for and I particularly enjoy working for, they committed 5% of their revenue before tax into R&D. Yeah. And we had a big consultancy arm, which was basically feeding back into our product all the time. And so we had this big interface with the market. And ultimately, the software group splintered off into its own beast because it just had to create software more efficiently. But, there was a big interface with our clients, and that really led and shaped our product. It was market driven. It was sort of constantly market driven, and it was very, very successful. Very niche. Ended up being obviously very niche product, but we also had our marketing was all about thought leadership. It was all about predicting where the market needed to be. And it was very, very enjoyable to work in that kind of space.
Yes. Because then you're the salesperson who turns up. You're not the salesperson that turns up and everyone's like, shit, Jamie's here. Like, pretend we're out. Do you know what I mean? Like the insurance salesperson that used to come and see my parents in the 80s, pretend you're out because the insurance guy's here. To being, great, Jamie's on his way. Do you know what I mean? Let's hope he stays beyond 5 and we can have a beer and a chat.
Yeah, exactly. But one point I'd like to make is I could also be that without having all that kind of specialist knowledge through. Okay, so one of the things I haven't mentioned, well, I'm sure you might or might not agree with this, but in my experience, and for whatever reason, business owners, possibly not because they don't know what they want, maybe haven't really taken the time to define what they want.
Yes.
And so it's my job as a salesperson to help them gain clarity. And through that clarity, it's the old adage, I can't remember. A problem defined as a problem solved, a problem shared as a problem solved, half solved.
Halved. A problem shared is
a problem halved. Right. So, but in my world, it was like, well, let's get clarity over what the problem is. Is there a problem? And let's articulate it. Let's get specific about it. And then all of a sudden, through sharing it and talking about it, solutions just naturally start pulling themselves forward.
Yes.
And making themselves obvious. Now, my solution may not be the right solution. I may know someone who does that, but at least I've given some power to the person I'm speaking with to move forward. And I think that's a big part of my role as a salesperson, quotation marks, salesperson now, to help them gain clarity. Now, I've now put myself in a better light as a salesperson where I would hope that I've helped them somehow. I've empowered them somehow to take some action. And therefore I've created, and in life coaching speak, it's anchoring, and use anchoring, I'm sure, in many different ways. And, I've anchored that good feeling with me. And and now they're more likely to come to, and I'm the one that they've given them a bit of a beacon of, you know, some hope, and they're going to come back to me to want to discuss more. Now that's definitely worked out in my favor many, many times. And also I've done the chivalrous thing where haven't led with my product. And in fact, that's really served me well, where I've just been completely fascinated and about them and what they do and their business. Don't want to get into anything personal, but, you know, I just want to know more about you, which has created a void for them to draw themselves closer to me. So there's a lot of psychology in sales. It's the power balance, right? You know, so as soon as I'm asking, wanting to sell something, the perception of power is with the client. However, as a salesperson, I'm always wanting to shift that. I want them to ask about me, because then the power is more. That's why marketing qualified lead is gold dust, really, for salespeople, because the client calls in. You know, it's like, I've heard about you guys. I want to know more about you. The salesperson sits back. You know, they're drawing the power towards them. They're going, oh yeah, you know, they're doing less of the talking. And the prospect is doing more of the talking. I'm just doing more of the questioning. Whereas if you need to go out there and make rain happen, I've got less power, and I'm trying to, and the client, the perception is that they've got more power, and I'm trying to then try to readdress that balance towards me somehow. And I'm not going to go into how we do that, but that's part of the skill in sales. That's why, you know, you got to like me, or, you know, build that type of rapport first, whether it's a business level rapport or it's a personal level rapport. And then you want to get the client asking about me and what I do.
Yes.
Anyway, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. And the thing
a rabbit
is,
hole there.
You've just rolled headlong into, if there is a debate, the debate that is raging in these conversations. So on one hand, we've got Barnaby Winter, who is a dyed-in-the-woods, I don't know if that's the phrase, marketeer. And he says, basically, nobody should be canvassing anymore. You shouldn't be looking for clients. There are enough people to sustain whatever your business is. They're already looking for you. You should have those people. And then Ben, on the last one that got published, so that will be 2 weeks ago by the time people are seeing this, and he's saying, no, by the time they are looking for a product or service, they're dealing with 4 or 5 people. They've already got their idea of what it is that they want. They're in a better negotiating position, so you're always going to generate less money. You should go find your own customers. So that's interesting. The truth is somewhere in the middle. The truth is somewhere in the middle.
I think so too.
But yeah. I mean, the thing is, when you go looking for your customers, you are in a much more powerful position. I want to talk about this. You're talking about power. I'm interested in that. You're in a more powerful position because you're saying, okay, you're the kind of person I like to do business with. You know, you're the sort of person that I do business with. Whereas you don't have that choice if people are coming to you. So it's not quite as simple as we're saying. I think it's somewhere in the... I think the ideal is making the most of leads. What you said is marketing qualified leads. Please. Marketing don't know how to qualify a lead. Marketing don't know how to qualify a lead. You can't qualify a lead until you are in a conversation with the person. And this comes back to the other thing that you said before, was about in the old days, the salespeople had all the power.
Yeah.
It's, in my experience, it's the customer, because I've never been prepared to bully or connive or cajole someone into buying something. It's always the customer that has all the power, because they can say no in a second, and mostly will, and much less commonly they'll say yes, you know. Good.
Power.
Yeah. Let's go with power, because I don't agree with what you're saying. I don't feel, I mean, I know it goes on, but I think there's real danger of ego in business and in sales.
Oh, it's all about that. It's all about ego. I think ego is all into it. It's like, do I respect this person? Do I respect this guy?
Yeah.
Am I going to spend more time with this guy? Is he talking my language? Do I think he's going to have some value here? Is he interesting? Do I like him? Is he funny? I don't know what this guy likes. I mean, it depends on what the prospect is going to be like, if they're going to want to spend more time with you.
Yeah.
And certainly if you want to go with decision makers, you know, it's they've done so much in their career, they've achieved so much. There is ego going to be there.
Yes.
Don't tell me these senior people don't have egos. Of course they have ego. We all have egos.
Yes. So this is
You
what
know.
Robbie said to me. Robbie said to me that his mission is to make his customer the hero in his business unit or in his business, because he has done the thing that was the right thing in buying from Robbie. Or like you say, you don't even have to sell to them. Are we on swearing terms? Can I swear?
Of course you can.
Okay, good. So here's what I say to people, like unless I'm presenting in the Middle East, I say to people I'm going to need to swear because I don't want to slow down to have to think of another word if I really want to fucking say something. But I want to be on swearing terms with my customers, because if my customer's got a fucking problem, I need them to be on the fucking phone to me. Do you know what I mean? That's where that's the conversation that I want to be having. So I was working in South Africa. We were selling huge financial compliance solutions to the banks and the insurance companies.
Cool.
It was cool, but no marketing person had ever looked at it and said, okay, yeah, these people might buy it, but it's going to take them 5 years. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, that's what was going on. Part of that business, we were like a body shop. So we had contractors in the market. And I had this one guy, this Afrikaner guy. He was in South Africa. Did I say that? This Afrikaner guy would phone me up at about 17 minutes to 6 every single day. And he'd say to me, Martin, come and take your fucking guys off my site. Because one of them had upset him some way, shape or form. Do you know what I mean? But at least he was having that conversation with me, you know. So I'm like, okay, let's think about this. Let's calm down. What do you need to happen? How do you need it to happen? When do you need it to happen? You know, do you want to be involved? Do you not want to be, you know, what's the situation? Because the alternative is he was on the phone to my competition saying, yeah, I'm going to phone that guy and tell him to get all these fucking guys off my site. You know, so that's where, and for me, it's all the selling I've ever done in my life has been relationship selling. I have become very good friends with my very best customers. So if they're even thinking that something I might know something about, they're on the phone to me, you know?
I totally agree with you, but I think the journey to get to that point can be different for different people. You can get there quickly, but for some people, they need more convincing to be able to get to that point. Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Different customers,
different types of products, maybe different types of way of convincing someone that they feel they're going to be comfortable enough to be able to say whatever they need to say. Right.
So that's the job of a salesperson. That, like you were saying earlier, is to somehow, I believe it less. So I'm more in Barnaby's camp than I am in Ben's camp, where I would prefer to deal, like kind of you're saying, with a marketing qualified lead, where somebody is coming to me and saying, can you please help me? Because they're at that point, I think they're a motivated buyer. So what's the point of that? So that is much easier. But that is your job as a salesperson, is to get to a point in that relationship where they will talk to you honestly about what their issues are. And the more deeply you can understand that, the more deeply you can satisfy those issues, the more successful you're going to be with that person and with hitting your targets, you know?
I totally agree. I went about mine and probably through more the, using the coaching skills so that they felt comfortable enough to open up with me. I absolutely agree with you. You do need to get to that point where you're talking about, well, what does this personally mean for me at a personal level? Yeah, whatever that means. Like, I'm just pissed off with your guys on my site. Just get the F off, right?
You can swear, man. It's okay. If we're going to get demonetized, it was my fault. It's happened already.
I remember I was dealing with a general manager of a manufacturing site out in the middle of Whoop in Queensland, and it's alpha male guy, and he saw my proposal and he stood up and he's a big guy, and he just said, "This is fucking bullshit, this proposal," and I knew I was in because he could tell me straight up. The transition plan that I put together for him was just fucking bullshit. He didn't believe it for 1 second. It's like, great, let's talk about what's it going to take now then? Give me something, give me more realistic numbers or whatever it was. I can't remember specifically, but let's go for a real version of this, And it was like, great. And we did it,
Right.
And,
so this is where it goes bad for salespeople, because to be a good salespeople, you have to be the ear of your customers. You have to have them respecting you and relying on you to the point where they want to have conversations with you. And
sorry. I had something to say there.
Yes, okay. But if you're a shitty salesperson, nobody will talk to you. Do you know what I mean? And then you're dead. And that's when sales is the worst job in the world. When no one will talk to you.
My mindset when this first clicked for me was the difference between a customer and a client. And a customer is transactional, whereas a client is someone who I protect. It's like the legal term, you protect your client.
Yes.
And that's what I did. So I saw myself, I was the voice of my customer, I was the voice of my client internally with the company I was working for. It's like, no, this needs to be done this way. And I'd fight for it has to be done this way. And once my client knew that I was doing that for them, that I was going to work till midnight. I have to have this conference call at 1:00 in the morning with the guy on the other side of the world, because we just got to get this done for this guy. It's like, you just got to do whatever it takes kind of stuff,
Yes.
Or whatever that might look like. But I was just doing whatever it took.
Yeah. Now
and gain the trust.
Yeah. So, but we've moved on, so it's okay. I think if there is a power struggle, I don't think that's good or healthy or useful in a sales-client relationship, personally.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I can see how it would come about. I mean, like you say, very often you're dealing with these alpha males because they have clawed their way to their position in their company, and they are responsible for dozens of people and millions of pounds of budget and. But what I wanted to say, sorry, what did you say? What was the last thing you said?
It was about trust, fighting for your client.
Yes. So this is what I think is that salespeople in your business should be advocates for the client.
Yeah.
And I 100% believe this, that your customers are the most important people because they feed you. If they are representing your customers in your business, then they should be the most respected people in your business. But that's not what I see. In most businesses, sales and marketing people are the least respected. And I'm saying this a lot recently. They're like the two smallest kids in the playground. They end up picking on each other. And what nobody takes the cognizance to realize is that they're actually feeding everyone, So that's another shift that has to happen. Like, this is the way the money flows into the business,
Yeah. No, that's certainly the case when I was working for that consultancy company. I think sales definitely was, wasn't really respected in that sense. But I think a lot of software, like pure software companies I was working for, I think sales was definitely the leader. I think that definitely the senior leadership within these software companies I worked for in the past came through the sales route, for sure.
Okay.
A marketing route, and worked with very strong marketing leaders as well that work very closely with the business leads.
Yes.
I was quite impressed from that point of view. But I do hear you. I definitely do hear you. I think sales and marketing should be working more closely together. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's what I think.
So there was something I was going to say. I also think, I don't feel I'm that political kind of guy. I don't feel like a particularly gregarious kind of guy. I think there's two different types of salespeople. And I think there's that more like you, who's very much gregarious. And, I love going out and meeting people. I mean, I'm not like, I do love meeting people, but possibly I'm not that really outgoing life, going to be the life of the meeting type of person. I'm definitely not that type of person. I work my sales in a different way. That's for sure. Yeah.
Okay. How do you've never had somebody phone you up every day and swear at you?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's interesting because I saw that you've done some personal development type stuff, clearly. Yeah. And I did some personal development type stuff. I was at a talk one day, and It was in Brighton in the UK. And I used to do quite a lot of presenting. So I'd stand up for the breakfast meetings for the county Chamber of Commerce. I was doing it a lot, like 3 or 4 times a week. I was probably standing up. And basically, we were given the task of going round and telling everyone if we thought they were an extrovert or an introvert. And the room, when it came to me, was 50-50 split. Everyone who'd seen me speak said I was an extrovert. Everyone who hadn't said I was an introvert. So I think that's kind of interesting that you say that. And I just wanted to relay that little story. There's no point to that necessarily.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah.
I think it depends on what you're selling. Clearly, if you're selling technical things, then you might need to be a more technical salesperson. Then probably you're going to be less outgoing, less personable. It's going to be less about.
I think you're absolutely right. I used to be a manager in. I took a gap year, and I was a manager in athleisure, which was an offshoot of JD Sport. And I used to run my own little shop. I used to love interacting. I used to love retail. I used to love retail.
Yeah,
I used to love interacting in public. I think you're absolutely right. I think context. I think when I started selling engineering stuff, and then I had to deal with very, very technical people who wanted the detail. The detail was so critical.
Yeah,
that I guess I was bent into that type of frame of mind. But you're right. You're right. I think whatever you're selling is really, really important.
So I think you can say almost universally, like if you're looking for if you're looking to be a salesperson, have a career in sales, you want to be that specialist that helps people out with that particular thing, so that people think, I've got this problem now, I should be on the phone to Jamie. Like I've got 60% of my salespeople aren't doing what they could be doing. I need to speak to Jamie. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how geeky it is what you're selling, how geeky you are as a salesperson, because it kind of will always fit. I will have more gregarious customers, maybe. You might have more geeky customers.
Absolutely. I think you've hit something I think you hit on something there. I think I had to do whatever it took to make sure that my client got the right information in the right way, in the way that they needed to receive it. And because of that, I had to do all this extra preparation work before I met them. That took a lot of research and homework so that I was ready for that conversation.
Yes.
So my environment shaped and dictated what I needed to do to be prepared for in that particular engagement. I think you're absolutely right. That completely coloured my approach.
Whereas I've never researched anything in my life.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I had to understand. I won't go into it. But I had to deal with chemical engineers. I had to deal with oil with very dangerous substances. I had to deal with refineries and things like that. It's not just you can't just rock up. You can't just rock up to places like this and start using your personality to get through. You have to know what you're talking about.
Yes. Okay. Thank the Lord I never found myself in those situations. Okay, good. So here's a challenging question. Are you ready for a challenging question?
Yeah, go for it.
Don't worry, it's going to be fine.
No, my mouth's just a bit dry.
That's okay. You can have a swig of something.
Go for it. Hit me.
So, given that we've established that so much of what can go wrong for a salesperson isn't necessarily their fault, wrong market, wrong product, ineffective marketing, no lead generation, etc. How, and then also given, so we haven't said this yet, but we might as well say this also now, some salespeople are complete arseholes.
Yeah.
How do you, they are, aren't they?
Well, they're driven, I think. I think there's some extremely driven salespeople, which can occur to other people as arseholes. So really, you've worked with arseholes?
I have, actually. And I think...
So have I. Yeah.
I mean, so there's probably levels to this. But I think, like, if you've got a problem child salesperson, They are much more difficult than a problem child accountant or a problem child secretary, or do you know what I mean? Because I don't know, maybe
But they're
because they
also
are such
heaps of
effective.
fun, though, these people. They're
Sorry?
also heaps of fun. They're also loads of fun as well.
Yeah, I'm talking about I'm talking about the bad apple. So I'm not saying salespeople are
All right.
bad. I'm saying that occasionally, if you get an arsehole salesperson, they will be the biggest arsehole. And I probably have done that once or twice in my life. So I'm including me in it. So I'm being very inclusive. I'm not blaming anyone. But so given that's the situation, so given that there are 5 things that could go wrong that aren't possibly the salesperson's fault, given that the thing that would be entirely the salesperson's fault is that they are a complete arsehole. So what I'm trying to establish is at both ends of the cake or the shelf or the whatever, it could be the business's problem. It could be the salesperson's problem. You've only got so much in the middle to work with if you are a sales trainer, where you know 100% the business is right. So there's nothing to be, that maybe it doesn't need to be 100% right. Maybe 80% the business is right. 80% this is the right person for the job. Now, how do you go to work?
I don't boil the ocean. I'm not. I mean, this is called a C grade opportunity for me. I mean, I'm not going to. Sorry, I don't know. I don't mean to like completely quash that, but like that would be so hard. That would be so hard. I think what I'd probably do with that salesperson is I mean I'm always inclined to look for the positive, I guess. You know, it may be incredibly naive, but if I'm going to deal with someone who feels like they're a real problem child, or you know, it's like, well, what's going on here? And I might be inclined to go, well, how is this an issue for you, and understand where they feel that this is a problem. I'm just looking at also working with companies to help structure their sales process so that they can get more consistency in their sales system. And if the salesperson doesn't follow that necessarily, or doesn't achieve the certain points or doesn't extract the right information along the way in the sales process, then their manager would have, and this sounds terrible, but have probably more substantiated reason to edge them out of the company. And that's probably a diplomatic way of saying it, right? If they're not the right fit, then maybe they shouldn't be there. And that's probably what I try and do with a salesperson. Well, you know, if you're not really enjoying your career, what is it you'd probably prefer to do? And maybe edge them away from that sales career, you know?
Okay, so I think that
may not be what they want to hear, and that may not be what their employer wants to hear. But if no one's really having the best experience of their life here, you know, at the end of the day, you've only got so many hours left in your life, right? And we're all going to die here. What would you rather be doing?
That sounds like a very dire conversation. You don't actually say to them, like, you are going to die. Why are you wasting your time?
No, I put it more diplomatically. It's like, well, you know, let's face facts. We've only got a finite amount of time in this world.
Yes.
Let's enjoy ourselves here. What would you rather be doing? You want to go to Bali and make, you know, let's retire your marketing responsibilities and go and do something wildly more enjoyable with your time on this planet, right?
Yeah. Now,
my priorities are, you know, my daughter, my being a dad, being the best, most outstanding dad I can be, gives me a huge amount of joy. Music gives me a huge amount of joy.
Yes.
I like to make money so that I can go racing go-karts and spending money on music and going traveling. That's why I want to become a better salesperson. I do enjoy interacting with people, but I like making money and I like spending my money on things that make me happy.
Yes. And I'm 100% with you. I think what I'm alluding to, and maybe this is rarer than I'm thinking, and I hope it is, but where it's kind of like a trope that salespeople blame the marketing for the product not being right, for the market not being right, for the leads not coming, for the blah, blah. And given that marketing will always blame the salespeople because they're lazy or they're stupid or they don't know or they didn't, you know, whatever it is. Now, when you step into that situation as an external, I suppose what I'm asking you is maybe how if these are the issues that you, because actually my experience of being invited in as a sales trainer is I get to deal with the sales team. So the expectation is always that what marketing doing is great, and the issue is here with these people. You're working with these people.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a question in there. But
no, it is. No, the challenge is there's a marketing are blaming sales, sales are blaming marketing. Marketing may not have done the best job in terms of marrying up the needs of the market with what they've got to offer. And salespeople are wasting too much time on the wrong opportunities, basically.
Yes. 100%. I really agree with that. One of the most effective sales trainings I ever had was where I managed to convince a team in a day that their job was actually to start saying no to their customers or their prospects because they were wasting too much. They were serving everyone. Everyone was getting 100%, but clearly they were only converting 25% of those deals. So 75% of their time was wasted.
I think salespeople find it very difficult to get a rejection. It's like they take it very personally. I don't want to hear a no. I want to. They see there's an opportunity in every single lead, and that's not the case.
100%.
It's just not the case, and they need to go and see if they need to fail quickly. The worst possible scenario is if they find out at the end of a hell of a long way down the sales process, and they've sunk so much money into getting people into meetings and spending so much time with the client and various people within their prospect organization, only to find out that this sale is actually really weak. The opportunity has got so many holes in it, and they were just not willing to go and to that place where they're going to actually admit, no, this isn't right for us, and we're not a good fit.
Yes.
Or I haven't done a good enough sales job to agitate the customer so that they're willing to open up and tell me what the hell's going on here. And actually, I'm just quote fodder here because they really want to go ahead with company B, company A over there. And we're actually in column B.
Yes.
And,
with their mate. And I think this is, I also did a presentation called The Most Powerful Close in the World, which was at the end, amid much fanfare, it was the word no. So I think too many salespeople try and stop their prospects from saying no, so they stay in their pipeline. And I think that's really dangerous. I think one of two things happens when you say no to a prospect. You say, either they buck up, you say, no, this isn't working the way it needs to. I don't believe you're going to get value from this. I don't want to sell it to you, whatever the reason is. What happens then is if they actually had an interest, then they will buck up and they will get what needs to be done. And if they never had an interest, then they'll just go away and you're much better off. But
I totally agree. I'm not sure if this will really work for you. I really don't know.
No, more than that.
It might work for you, but let's have a conversation to see what's there for you.
Yeah.
I
even
love
stronger than
approach.
that. You know what, Jamie? I hear what you're saying, that you'd like this, but you know what I need to happen isn't happening. So if at some point in the future you really see the benefit in this, you've got my telephone number, and I'll see you then, or else I'll never see you again. Do you know what I mean? That kind of really gets people thinking, did I want this or not? And it's cool. If they didn't, they're gone. Yeah. They're not taking up your time and energy. And if they did, then they'll start doing things differently,
Yeah.
My God.
I like that.
Yeah. We sold, oh my God. At one point in my life, I sold what they called summits. So what this was, is they would invite supposedly the 100 top buyers of a solution to Sun City, it was at the time in South Africa.
Oh,
and then my team, my team would go out to the market and we'd say, look, you can have your choice of meetings with up to 60 of these people, and it's only going to cost you, whatever it was, £30,000 or something. The key then was basically to phone these people up, like country managers and these kinds of people, and basically tell them, look, this is what's going on. Our market have suggested that you might get value, like they might value having these meetings with you and your team. To be honest, we don't fancy it. We don't think you're going to be able to make the most of these meetings. And then they'd be like, well, why not? We're PricewaterhouseCoopers. And it's like, well, because we had some of your people in Chicago, and the feedback wasn't that great. And they didn't feel like you had the solutions, or you were committed to delivering the solutions. And they're like, well, of course we're committed. We're price war. Do you know what I mean? And before they know it, they've spent 30 grand with us or whatever it was. But that was the only way to sell it. Because if you phone them up and say, look, we can give you meetings with 60 of the leading buyers of this thing in sub-Saharan Africa, they'd be like, oh yeah, well, let me think about it. Send me over a proposal, blah, 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 blah. And it would never get sold. That was my favorite and my least favorite sales job.
No, I can see how that would work. I mean, that's taking extreme power back onto your side. I love it. That's really good. Yeah.
And the best thing about that was that I had Tony from Soweto, Tony from Soweto, Bessie from Zambia. They were all phoning up these like leading brand, household name business decision makers and just slapping them about all day. So when you got to the point where you said, okay, I'm going to send you the contract, I need it back in 20 minutes. And they're like, I can't possibly get it past legal. Then you were like, I told you this from the beginning. I told you you weren't capable of getting this done. Stop wasting my time. No, send it. I can get it done. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. But it was, and they had a good time when they got there, I suppose. So it was beautiful. Yeah. But the power of no is really strong, I think.
I like that. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I like that too. That was my best job. Yeah. That was my best job.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I wish I would like to have done that training, to be honest with you. I've never done that. That's the first time I've ever heard anything like that. And I would like to have given that a go. That sounds like a huge amount of fun.
I mean, you have to have balls of steel, because if you waver for a second, they smell it and you're done. But then also you don't, because you've still got, another 100 people to call. So, yeah.
I bet the first time doing it, that would be quite nerve-wracking. The first time I would have done that, or even the second or third time, it's actually not worked. Let's try it again. Yeah.
But I learned this by accident, because I had to go back to London for something. And I ended up working for like 3 months with the team in London. And there was an Australian guy. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he'll have a conversation with me. But his phrase was, I couldn't give a rat's ass. So literally, we'd be on the phone with a prospect, and it would be coming close to the sale. And they'd be like, I want to speak to the manager because I've got this issue, that issue, some other issue. And he would come on the phone and he'd be like, yeah, I couldn't give a rat's ass. They'd be like, oh, we can't get the money. I couldn't give a rat's ass. I can't get the contract. I couldn't give a rat's ass. It doesn't matter what they said. He was saying the same thing to us all day. We're like, oh, this guy really wants to do it, but he can't. He's like, I couldn't give a rat's ass. Like, show me the contract, basically. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a long time ago as well. Yes. Good. So, I think we might have got to the end. We've been talking for like nearly an hour and a half. We've been talking for 17 minutes.
All right, cool. Okay. No books, no like...
No. I'm still going to ask you this. As long as you don't have to rush away, that's like, I've taken all the time you've committed to. That's all I'm telling you.
No, I'm good. I've just got something on this afternoon, that's all.
Okay, good. So one thing I want to ask you is...
I'm just going to double check. No, it's fine. I've got something on. I've got a call stateside, so they're not on. They don't come online for ages.
Okay, good. So when we were talking earlier, maybe before we hit the record button, you were saying you've got a thing against traditional selling. Like your mission is to convince people of something other than this traditional selling. So what is that?
I think it gets in the way. I think people trip themselves up on it because they feel like they've got to say the right thing in the right way at the right time because that's how they got taught.
Right.
And I think it's criminal because they're suppressing their style. They're just not saying what they feel like they want to say or how they want to say it because they feel like they have to, because they got taught it a certain way. So they're trying to do it that way. Now, the biggest crime about that is they're not really with the person they're speaking with because they're just not in the conversation. They're in their head thinking, am I doing this right? I've asked the right thing at the right time. And the person on the other end of the Zoom call knows it. They feel it. They're not with me here, mate.
Yes.
You know? And that's the thing that I hate about traditional sales training because people trip themselves up and they're just totally, out of the conversation. You know, their head is somewhere completely else rather than where it needs to be, which is with the person they're speaking with. They're not being authentic.
So basically. It's not about using scripts or learning scripts, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, and finding, taking steps and asking the right question, the right type of question at the right time. I think there's a lot. I think if you're yourself and you're using your own style, personality, and you generally know where you need to get to in the conversation, I think the person you're speaking with has a lot of tolerance for you. They'll give you a lot of time. There's no such thing then. Well, there is such thing as a wrong question. You can obviously, be very offensive or whatever, or maybe not in your case. I don't know, but it sounds like you've been very, confrontational. So I'm going to take that back. But I think I've earned a lot of tolerance from my customers where I feel like I've maybe going to ask the wrong question, but just because I was being completely myself, we still move forward together. They preferred it. So yeah, I hate that around sales trainings because it kind of masks over the salesperson's true way of being. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we had this conversation with Robbie and about AI and how AI is going to eventually be in sales. And I don't see that, because it has to be a person and a person, unless you're talking about something a totally data-driven sale, like a completely commoditized sale, at which point you're going to have a computerized procurement team and a computerized sales team. It's not going to make any difference. All the time sales is required, it has to be a person. Now, what's interesting about that is whenever I've been involved with sales training, they've told me these people can't close. These people are terrible closers. But in my experience, it's not that necessarily. It's that they don't know how to open a sale, or they don't know how to open up an opportunity.
Absolutely. You've taken the words right out of my mouth. The close, if there is such a thing as a close, it means that you haven't done something right further upstream. If it becomes like a very unnatural step, I think a close is always a natural, in my experience, is always a natural step. It's just, well, how do we move forward here? Obviously, there needs to be payment of money. That money conversation should have happened ages ago. There should be no surprises around money when you need to move forward. That should have been established really up front, in terms of the values, in terms of, okay, well, what ballpark figure are we in here? Are we even on the same page at the moment in terms of what it's going to cost versus vis-a-vis value and yada yada yada. I don't like this whole concept of closing techniques. I think it's crap.
Yeah, so I think even more than that. I think
people like to negotiate. People like to feel they've had a deal.
Yes,
that's fine.
Yes.
Build that into your price.
Yes. Okay, good. Because I was just going to say that, like objection handling or negotiation, like the fact that the idea that you can teach somebody how to do these things, or you can give them the words and the steps to get them through that thing. I feel like I feel quite differently about those things. Basically, if someone's objecting, if they really don't want it, I don't want to sell it to them. Do you know what I mean? If they really don't want it, I don't want to sell it to them. And if you say that to someone and they'll just say, I really don't want it. It's like, okay, good. Let's go and get a beer. And we don't have to argue about this. Like, just don't buy it. And the same with negotiation. See, I think an objection, I've got this other thing. I used to do a lot of presentations. I've got this objection handling presentation, which is basically, it's like a tug of war. So I have one set of people on one side throwing in like a buying signal, and then somebody else on the other side responds, and I build up these two teams, and then I get them yanking each other around, and then I say to them, actually, there's a better way of doing this, and the response to every objection you ever hear should be, what do you mean by that? And they'll say, oh, well, I don't have the budget. And you're like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? It means, well, the budget's not available till March. It's like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? It's like, well, if I'm going to do this, I can't do it till March. You're like, hey, ho, I'll see you in March. Do you know what I mean? So there is never for me like any meaningful negotiation or objections, or like you're saying, scripts don't work. Like this traditional approach, it's just not what's required. Except I do wonder if it's what's required to get some of your 60% closer to the space where they could be behaving more naturally. I mean, I think there's that.
I look, in my trainings, I want people to feel very natural when it comes to a closing conversation. It's so objection handling. I like yours. I definitely teach in a very similar way. It's like getting
Yeah.
specific. But what's behind that? Well, what's behind that? Well, what's behind that? You know.
And at the end, they'll answer it. I don't fancy it, is the answer. I just don't fancy what you're saying.
I just didn't like the way you walked into the room that one time. I'm sorry. I just didn't like you to, you know, I just didn't like the way you looked at me.
Oh, here's the best. Like Sandra, the secretary, says you were a complete arsehole the first time you phoned in.
Yeah. I didn't like your post on, you know, whatever.
Yes.
Oh, it's nothing to do with timing then. Right.
No.
You're just being antagonistic because you just didn't like, you know, the way I called you.
Yes.
You know, it's like,
and there's the price objection. It's like someone says, oh, it's too expensive. Like there's 20 things they could be saying. Do you know what I mean? But a salesperson will be like, oh, well, our product's shit, the market's shit. Like, and they're saying it's too expensive. They go back to the business and say it's too expensive.
Most of the time, they don't trust themselves that they can actually extract the value out of it. It's like, yeah, we spent this money before. It's only become shelfware. It's like, oh, right. So you don't really think that you don't doubt that it won't work. You just don't think you can actually use it well or use it properly. Yes. So it then becomes like a training situation or an implementation situation. Well, let's have a look at that.
Okay, you know, well, there's an opportunity for you to buy more from us. Do you want it implemented? We can do that for you. Do you want training? We can do that for you.
We can put a junior into your team. We can second you a guy for 6 months to help you implement this thing then. How does that sound? Oh, that'd be amazing. Oh, how about one of your guys comes and sit with us? We've never done this before, but I'm just throwing it out there. We've never done this, but what do you think about this idea? One of your guys can come and sit in our office for 3 weeks and just learn from our guys. You know, obviously there needs to be a price here, but you know, would that really help? You guys could get inside our offices and get first-hand experience and training with our support team.
Yes.
And then you could go back and he could become the internal champion, and you won't need to rely on us forever and a day, or the relationship could become so tight, you know, that your guys could get to know our guys so well and know, you know, we got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just making it up. I have had that conversation. I've had conversations like that many times when it become objections. They just don't trust themselves that it would actually work for them. We need
potentially
to work out a creative solution.
And they know that. But when, so that's what I think is, I think every objection is an opportunity to negotiate. You know, it's like,
and we sell more, as you just said. We sell more.
Yeah, this is the issue I have with your power thing, where because I think all the time it's a struggle. This is the point about the tug of war. Nobody wants to lose. You know, and I'll say this to them when they've pulled one team over. I'll be like, "Hey ho, you won. How do you feel?" And they'll be like, for a second, "Oh, I'm really happy." Oh, but actually, I could have really done with that thing as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, there you go. You know, so I think for me, it's about.
But the power changes is always shifting through the sales engagement. When I was talking, I mean, so your use of power in terms of your opener, in terms of, I don't believe you. No, I'm not going to tolerate this. That is massive power on your side. You know?
Yeah, but the thing is, nobody's happy at the end of that. I mean, I was happy. I was in my 20s. I was living in South Africa. I was making a decent amount of money. I was managing Africans to do this to these oppressive white people. You know, I was happy in that sense. Okay. But that business wasn't sustainable. You know, those people, they might have gone and, you know, so for me, that was boiler room sales. That was, you're going to sell to this person once, you know, and they're never going to do it again unless they have an amazing time at the event, in which case they'll rebook and doesn't matter what anyone says. So, but that for me isn't sustainable. You know, you couldn't. If I was selling IBM if I was selling mainframes into banks, I couldn't go in there and speak to their chief IT officer, their whatever they're called, CIO, and go, "Yeah, you're an idiot. I'm not going to talk to you. I don't trust you. My mate had said he had an issue, blah blah." Because the guy's just going to tell me where to go. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very specific situation.
I guess a lot of people who I work with as clients, they give away a lot too much power, and I just need to illustrate the power tension and the play of that, and how it reduces their ability and their results. And and their satisfaction of their career, yada, yada, yada. But
Yes.
there is that power thing and they give away too much. And I guess I have to bring them back. I need to bring back equilibrium to them.
Yes. So, okay, so I'm with you. As long as it's not a power contest, like you don't need to be
No,
more
no.
powerful for them, but you do need to
Yeah.
be respected. You
Yeah.
can't be running after them at 1,000 miles an hour at their beck and call. They need to
Yeah.
know that you need to be respected as a resource. Okay, then we agree about
It needs to be
absolutely everything
balanced.
now.
It's just balance. People won't
Yes.
buy from someone if they feel superior or inferior, And I think some salespeople, especially, and I've got feedback from a lot of buyers, bringing in people from large corporates, that salespeople can have a huge sort of superiority complex. They've got this arrogance,
Yes.
and they've, however big the supplier is, national, multinational, great big, we're the best in the market. Kick them out the process because they're just been so horrible to deal with. Get F off.
Yes.
We don't want to deal with you. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, people won't buy from people, especially if they're buying anything meaningful. They want to respect people. If I'm buying a tennis racket, I go into the tennis shop and I want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
The guy will say, how do you hit? What do you do? When do you do it? Why do you do it? What are you trying to get? That's the conversation I want to have. That's the conversation anyone who's buying something really wants to have, I think. Okay, cool. We agree about everything. It's good. Is there anything that you feel you should have said that you haven't said?
Don't know. Don't think. Probably no. There's nothing. There's nothing out there. Nothing comes to mind.
Okay. Is there anything you said you feel that you shouldn't have said?
Oh, I love that. Where did you learn to ask that question?
I asked it by accident when I was saying, "Is there anything else you should have said?" And that's my new question.
No, it's awesome. That's an awesome question.
Yeah.
Is there anything I should have said anything I said that I shouldn't have done? Anything I didn't say that I should have done? That's brilliant. I did a survey at the end of last year on senior buyers, on people who've spent a lot of money out there to get feedback on bad and good approaches, but really bad approaches, just to, I suppose, agitate the market, just to highlight to sales managers that their teams are doing some things wrong. And that was very enlightening, basically.
Okay.
And really enlightening. I've got the list. I pulled up the list here, and I'll just read them out to you and see what you think. So condensed down to these, basically, there's a lot of assumptions being made and salespeople shooting in the dark, lacking an understanding of what they do as a business. This is B2B, by the way.
Yep.
There's little appreciation of their role and the challenges, and they basically completely miss the crux of the issue, completely miss the crux of it. But they think they're on it. They think they hit the nail on the head, but they've completely missed it. Very little preparation, completely untargeted approach, but they're persistent with the same irrelevant message, which kind of connects to the previous point.
Yep.
Being long-winded and lacking succinctness, and not really what it comes down to, respecting the time of the people who they're talking with and not being able to get to the business value quickly. And by getting to business value quickly, it shows that they know what they're talking about. Not knowing their subject matter well enough, using scripts and a lack of natural flow to the conversation, pitching too soon, being over familiar before a relationship has been formed.
Oh, that's me.
Overselling or mis-selling the value, lacking humility and substituting confidence with arrogance. And this is just a point, carry on. This occurred only with salespeople from large corporates or people who had come from a large corporate sales culture. So those are the things that were highlighted. Now, I call this a survey. This was basically from my network of people who I formed over a period of time, of people who had bought big ticket stuff. We're talking of the range minimum 250,000, usually in the 1 million, 20 million, 60 million kind of things that they've authorized to purchase. And that was the feedback, which I thought was brilliant, really.
Yes. And not altogether surprising, brilliant. And I think if what we're saying is the same thing, is like I haven't worked in a sales role for 20 years. My approach in the end, having gone through all of these different things, was just to be genuinely interested and to keep asking as good questions as I could engineer, to the point where they would say, I'll give you, for instance, we were selling this compliance solution to the big insurance companies and the big banks in South Africa. So out of the box, there were 37 businesses I could sell this to. That was it. So I would get on the phone and I would grill the product guys, you know, what does it do? How does it do it? Why does it do it? Blah, blah, blah. And I would literally write down 3 A4 pages of questions. And then I would look at it and I would think, okay, when I do sales training, I teach people like a staircase of needs. I don't know if you've heard of this, but at the beginning, you want to build some rapport. So you ask them very gentle questions that they can answer really easily, build some rapport. In the middle, you want to do some kind of qualification. So, you know, how much of this are you doing? When are you doing it? What are the challenges? And at the end, what you want to do is have some closing questions, like when is this coming up for you guys, or how might you want to proceed, or what would be the next step for you, these kinds of questions. So I had these 3 pages of A4. And so the mission was to get these compliance, board level compliance officers in these huge businesses on the phone and start asking these questions, but not rigidly. You know, if they say something and it's, you know, I'm naturally nosy. And 33 out of the 37, so this is from cold call, got to the point where they said, you know what, Martin, it's really interesting what you're saying here. I hadn't said anything. I'd asked these 20, 30 questions. That it was 45, 50 minutes in. You know, it's really interesting what you're saying here. I think we could really benefit from you coming in and talking to the team. 33 out of 37. So the point for me is this is why I objected to you saying that the salesperson was in full control. Unless you're absolutely thoroughly bullying someone into buying something, you've got zero control. You know, the best you can do is motivate them to do the thing that you want them to do. And for me, I don't think I've pitched. I think I was selling for 10 years. I don't think I pitched in the second 5 years because I would always be digging and getting them to the point where you said this earlier. They realize, you know what, we have got an issue with this. We do need to be thinking about this. Or even better, I never even imagined we might be able to resolve this issue. Do you know what I mean? We need to get Martin in and have this conversation. So nothing on that list surprises me. The only excuse might be is if they are smashing their targets by so much that it doesn't matter that they've got completely the wrong approach. I suspect it's not that. I suspect that they're probably not as successful as they need to be because that approach is entirely wrong. It needs to be about the customer. It has to 100% is about the customer, you know, and that's what makes the job so difficult, maybe, because actually you're not in any control of any of this, really. All you are doing is influencing all the way through, and it depends how your success depends on how good you are at influencing. I'm talking too much again.
Oops,
somebody's sneezing downstairs. Yeah, we've got colds in this house. Okay, good. So the next question is reading recommendations. What do you recommend that people read?
What have I read recently that I really enjoyed? I've reread Daniel Pink's book called Drive. When Daniel Pink is this psychologist, but he relates everything to sales. He also wrote another book called To Sell Is Human.
Yes,
and it's a lot about psychology and sales, and I really like that. It's like contextual stuff.
Yeah.
What else? I like the psychology stuff. I like Dan Ariely, Predictably Irrational, which is all about behavioral economics and again understanding why people buy.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really interesting. What else? I like reading about successful people. as well.
Okay.
Not that I've read a book about successful people recently. I've just bought Nelson Mandela's book, just to tie it back to South Africa, Long Walk to Freedom.
Yes, that was a
Um,
long walk, wasn't it?
yeah, exactly,
It's a long
exactly. He's
book.
an inspiring guy.
Yeah.
And, the classics such as Like a Virgin by Branson. That's a great book.
You know what? I could have met Nelson Mandela,
Oh,
and I bottled it. We were
oh,
in a shopping mall and in the car park underneath, and
right.
we were coming out, and this convoy pulls in. So it's like 3 armored cars, not armored, like armor plated cars, whatever.
He's got
8
his,
cars,
he's got his
3
finger in.
more. And my mate's
Yeah.
like, whoa, 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 step back, step back, step back, like get away. So we did get away. And then from like 40 meters, we saw Nelson Mandela get out of this car. So if
Oh,
I just
all
stood
right.
my ground where I was, well, maybe I'd got shot, but that's a stupid thing. Okay,
What
here
books would you
is
recommend? What books would you recommend?
my recommendation for you, if you like reading about successful people, is, do you know Malcolm Gladwell? If you like David
Yeah,
Pink, you will like Malcolm Gladwell.
I like Malcolm
What's it
Gladwell.
called?
Yeah.
It's called... Oh my God, I'm going to have to Google it. It's called Malcolm Gladwell books. It's called Outliers is what it's called. Have you read Outliers?
Okay. No, I'm going to make a note of that.
Read that immediately. It's such a good book.
Outliers. Okay.
And the reason I like Malcolm Gladwell is because he does kind of what I'm trying to do with sales and marketing, but he does it
Right.
with the world. Do you know what I mean? It's like you imagine it's
Yeah.
like this, but actually it's ever so slightly different. And if it's ever so slightly different, then maybe it's, for him, it doesn't matter if it's better or worse. But that's kind of my approach. So I would read that. And I'm also reading Donut Economics. Somebody on these talks
I've heard about that.
recommended to me recently. I thought it was going to be about somebody making money from selling donuts. It's not about that at all.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, that is good.
All right.
But definitely read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. That is a gem.
Okay.
That's an absolute gem. Okay,
Well,
cool.
one person, I mean, there've been a lot of podcasts and things like that as well that I've been more into.
Okay.
And so there's a couple of guys. There's one called Benjamin Dennehy. I don't know if you've heard of Benjamin Dennehy.
No.
He's pretty good. I think you would really resonate with his message as well. Actually,
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff on YouTube, and Josh Braun as well, Braun, and he's got a nice, short but to the point podcast.
Fantastic.
And LinkedIn presence as well. But he's much more about for the SDRs of the world rather than, and maybe also, B2B, but he's really good at the lead generation stuff.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So, recommendations for who I should talk to or people you can introduce me to.
Who are
that
you
I should
looking
speak
for? What type of person?
to. I'm looking for either salespeople, marketing people, or business owners, or because for me, everything in business is sales and marketing. That's kind of what I feel. So successful business owners who understand the value of marketing and sales, or very good salespeople, or business or marketing people who might be out on their own running marketing agencies or sales agencies. Those kinds of people is what I'm interested in.
Okay, I've got a couple of people that comes to mind. One who I think is an amazing salesperson. His name is, oh gosh, I've forgotten his surname, Simon. Can I drop them over to you in a message?
You can. If you could set up like Robbie did, like an intro on LinkedIn.
I will.
That's the thing that's working really well, I think. So people are
okay. There's a guy in Australia called Peter Rowe. He's based in on the Sunshine Coast. No, sorry, the Gold Coast. I think he's excellent. There's a guy in Wales called Neil Franklin, or Franklinson. He's a very successful entrepreneur, now business mentor coach.
Okay.
I'll introduce you to all of these people, by the way. Okay. And oh gosh, Simon, I forgot his surname, but I will definitely make an introduction to Simon for you as well. So that's 3 people.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's absolutely perfect. Yes. Thank you so much,
No
man.
worries.
I thoroughly enjoyed this. I don't know how you feel about it.
I thoroughly enjoyed meeting and having this conversation with you as well. Definitely.
Yeah.
got
Is
a
it what
huge
you were
amount of value from
expecting?
it. I I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you.
Okay.
No, it was good though. I enjoyed it.
Excellent.
I hope you enjoyed it. You enjoyed it, right? That's
Thoroughly
good. You
enjoyed
got
it.
value from this? Your
Yeah,
audience are going to get value from this?
I hope so. Yeah. The thing is, this is, I mean, it's interesting because, like I say, I'm interested in these subjects, you know, and I'm interested to dig a little bit beyond veneer, because I think that's where, like, very often I think salespeople develop a pitch, you know, and you get the pitch, and I'm probably the same. Like, I've got my pitch. So if I were to be interviewed, you'd get my pitch, and you'd have to push
Yeah.
me a little bit to get beyond that.
Yeah.
So that's hopefully what I'm doing in these conversations. I hope so. Somebody's going to find this. It's going to be a treasure trove of, like I say, there's already
Yeah.
30 of these. And
Yeah.
like, if you think about the first one was my mate Ed. My mate Ed was working in advertising agencies in London in the early 70s. He's got 50 years experience. Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
yeah, so yeah, I'm hoping when people discover this, when the algorithm sheds some light on this, brings it out the shade or whatever, then people are going to find it really useful. That's what I'm hoping.
Good, man. Cool.
Good.
All right.
So what we'll do is we'll do the pretend goodbye now, and then I'll stop recording.
Yeah.
Then we'll say goodbye like normal human beings. So,
All right, man.
thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Pleasure's been all yours.